And now it's time for another Pimpy's reaction video.
Yay!
What is going on out there, peeps? All right. Look, you know, when mainstream media, or close to mainstream media anyways, is actually reporting on gold being hoarded by the central banks, then this becomes a big deal. Okay, first of all, just staring at all these bars of gold, these are kilos over here, by the way. Look at them. And these, I'm not even sure. I think these are 1,000-ounce bars. I don't usually like to brag about what's in my basement, but here you go. I wish. Anyways, I want you to hear this video, a news report that came out from Roman over there at Facts Matter, because it's important to hear what he has to say. It's what I've been telling everybody for a long time. Watch what they do, not what they say. Before I get into it, though, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. Speaking of precious metals, if you're thinking about buying gold and silver, go to our friends over there at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get a free half ounce of silver. A quick look at the crypto market. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Yes, Bitcoin, $19,752. It's dropped down a nice little chunk since it almost got to the 22,000. Ethereum is at $1,439.90. XRP is at 34 cents. Cardano is at 46 cents. Solana is at $32.25. Dogecoin still around at 6 cents. Polkadot's at $6.85. Polygon is at 80 cents. And Shiba is at 4.012. It really hasn't moved much up and down in a long time. People are asking me about Terra Luna. I said, don't panic. Guilt by association. People were linking the fact that the old owner, Quan Do, which sounds like a name of a character from Mortal Kombat. But anyways, there's arrest warrants out for this guy, is no longer connected to Terra Classic. This is ran by the community, and now people are starting to wake up to this fact as people get more educated. It's still at 303, but it's up 27% today. It's going to go, guys. It's going to take off. So now's the time if you're thinking about it, in my opinion. If you want to buy cryptos, the links are down below in the description. You have two links, one to Kucoin and one to Coinbase. But if you're going to buy Terra Classic, which is under LUNC, that you will find on Kucoin. Saitama, it really isn't doing much. It's at 2015. It is down. It was up to about 203 at one time, but it goes up and down all the time. They continue to struggle with footing. That's because everything they're doing has been changed. There's new versions of all the things they originally put out, including their platform. So, you know, they're going to take a hit for that. I just hold on to them and we'll see what happens. People say, Pimpy, how come we don't talk about the Russian ruble anymore? Well, because it's not really doing anything. It drops down to 0.015, then it shoots up to 0.019, and as you can see right now, it's at 0.017. If you were good enough to jump on the Russian rubles when they had, was it 3 zeros 9, 4 zeros 9, then you more than doubled your money. But Russian rubles at the moment is sitting at 0.017. Silver continuing to get closer and closer to that $20 mark all over again. It's at $19.59 an ounce. You can see on the 12th it did reach the $20 level, but then dropped back down and now is recovering. You're going to see why here in just a moment. But anyways, silver does close the week at $19.59 per ounce. Gold closed the week at $1,675.90, and there's a reason for that. It's delivery month, and two, you're going to see here in just a moment when you watch this video, they are hoarding up on gold, you guys. Don't panic because the price goes down. I told you that it's not the real price. Just hang tight. Ever since August, it has slowly but surely been going down, but don't panic. You can see here that it came down and is now starting to come back up. I'm telling you, just you should be looking at this as, oh, not that you lost any of your value. No, no, no. Don't look at it that way, you guys. I'm telling you, that's the wrong way to approach this. Just look at it as it being on sale, and you're blessed enough to be able to pick it up much cheaper than it was. Keep stacking. Shout out to Roman over there at Facts Matters. His entire video covers what's going on over there with the central banks and what it is that they're doing with gold. Let's listen in, and we'll cut in from time to time to comment on it.
This right here is the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank here in the United States. And there is an equivalent to the Federal Reserve in almost every country throughout the entire world. In fact, out of the 196 countries currently on this planet, only 9 of them don't have a central bank.
Okay, first of all, that's terrible. And these central banks are being forced into these countries. If you didn't have one of these central banks, they would say, oh, you need regime change. Libya, Iraq, Hong Kong, Cuba, these were some of the places that didn't have one. And next thing you know, they were talking about regime change.
And right now there's, you can say, an interesting phenomena. Because on the one hand, you have central banks across the entire world, including the European Central Bank.
That woman is evil, by the way.
International Monetary Fund, you have the World Economic Forum, and so on. All of these globalist institutions, they're all talking about creating a decentralized digital currency, a form of digital currency that they could issue, track, restrict, and essentially use to control the citizens. However, at the same time that these central bankers are talking about issuing centralized digital currencies, well, behind the scenes, they are actually doing something else. They are purchasing massive, and I do mean massive, amounts of physical gold.
That's nothing new. We spoke about that. But I want you to just take a gander at the size of these bricks. Can you imagine doing some metal detecting? You buy a house and you start renovating and you find these in the wall. Look at the size of these bricks.
Just to give you a few examples, Poland's central bank is set to buy 100 tons of gold this year alone. The Central Bank of Singapore quietly added 26 tons of gold to their reserves. The Central Bank of Hungary has increased their gold reserves by a staggering 3,000% over the last 3 years. The central banks of India, Russia, China, Ireland, and so on have all been accumulating gold. France has repatriated all of their monetary gold. And even the Central Bank of Zimbabwe, in order to combat rampant inflation, they have begun to offer gold coins to their citizens, and so on and so forth. There are a ton of these examples. And so you see, while on the one hand, these central bankers are talking publicly, as well as priming their citizens about getting ready for a centralized digital currency, sort of like a Bitcoin equivalent that they can issue, control, and track, on the other hand, they have been accumulating massive positions in physical gold bullion.
I've been speaking about this. I told you, do what they do, not what they say. When you see central banks doing this, that means something is up.
The big question here is obviously why? What do they see that's making them accumulate so much gold? And so in order to get an idea of what this all means and what exactly these central bankers are seeing in the near future, I got a chance to speak with Mr. Max Baker, who is the Chief Operations Officer over at American Hartford Gold. Being the Chief Operations Officer, Max has a broad view of what's happening in the market. And here's what he told us.
Central banks, you got to look at what they're doing, not what they're saying. And central banks have always been a big fan of gold.
Whoa, did he just say what I thought he said? Watch what they're doing, not what they're saying? Am I crazy, or is that a gold bar in the background?
Know that it's the end-all, be-all, that no matter what happens over here, over there in the world, gold is going to have its value. Venezuela is a great example of that. Russia is a great example of that. When inflation was roaring in Venezuela, it still is, and when there's political turmoil over there, Russia went to them and said, hey, we'll help you out. And Venezuela said, great, we've got all kinds of currency to send you. And Russia said, no, we don't want that. Well, we've got art to send you. Well, we don't want that. You know what? You do have a value that we want. We want your gold.
Woo, you see what they're doing is you got countries jockeying for position, and they got some of these countries by the short fuzzies. Look, Russia has European definitely in a chokehold. And what Russia wants is their gold. What the Federal Reserve here in the United States is not telling you is they've been buying massive amounts of gold. And I mean massive. I think because they're about to be exposed as not having any gold. And this is why they're doing what they're doing.
Realize when everything's hitting the fan, that is the only thing of value still available.
And so do you believe that the fact that all these central bankers, they maybe have two competing visions. Maybe they have the vision of this utopian future with the central bank digital currency and being able to control the volatility of money and all that, by maybe putting expiration dates, et cetera, on these digital currencies. But the reality is that they know that they need something that has that baseline that everybody can accept, that is universally identified, and that's gold.
Yep.
Is that what you think?
Absolutely. That gold is the foundation for everything. Gold is the only real money. Everything else is just credit.
Gold is the only real money. Everything else is just crap. And that's why you're seeing the elite millionaires. If you remember, wasn't that long ago that one of the Walmart eras, the Waltons, the female, bought $50 million of gold and silver? There's a reason for that.
So what do you believe the future will be moving forward? Because right now, a lot of people are discussing de-dollarization. It's true. It seems like, the BRIC countries are expanding to maybe even include Saudi Arabia in the near future. So it seems like there's already kind of becoming a unipolar sort of world that's moving away from the US dollar. What do you view gold's position moving forward?
When it comes to Saudi Arabia, I have a feeling what they're doing is they're going to wait and find out what happens in the 2024 election. Because if Trump gets back in there, that's a whole different ballgame altogether. Trump really does have a relationship with Saudi Arabia. So I think there's a lot of countries, before they make that move that really kills the US dollar, they're waiting to see what happens in the 2024 election.
To be in the world.
Well, and that's the beauty of gold. If the dollar does lose its world reserve currency, there is going to be major volatility. There's going to be shock waves throughout all fiat currencies. And with that, the ultimate currency will be gold. And, you can imagine whether it's the Chinese yuan, whether it's the euro, to unseat the dollar as world reserve currency, there's going to be some major volatility. And I don't know if it'll lead to some type of financial crisis. But in any event, gold will certainly hold its value and increase in value considerably, in my opinion.
That's why we're seeing Iraq every month add tons to their gold holdings. They're now up to over 134 tons of gold. They continue to add to it.
Let me ask you this. So I personally began to invest in gold right after Q3. So that was back in 2015, 2016 for me. And I thought, man, I missed this wave. I missed this crazy wave of money printing, because after QE1, QE2, and QE3, where the money prices were hot, just going over time hot, the price of gold followed as well as the price of silver. However, now, what happened in QE3 was kid stuff compared to what's happened during the pandemic. However, it seems like the price of gold has not kept up. What do you owe to that? What is actually maybe even let me ask a more fundamental question. How is the price of gold determined?
Yeah, well, this guy is most likely going to say, as you can see in the headlines, that the prices are being manipulated. And he's going to go ahead and say the same thing that I did. But what I want to know is, does anybody have any idea how much longer they're going to be able to do this?
Price of gold is traded openly on the open market. There's paper gold that's traded. There's physical gold, which obviously has a premium to it because it's having to be mined, minted, delivered, everything else. But that fluctuates. And oftentimes, volatility in the world will cause the price of gold to run upwards. The dollar will cause the gold to go up and down because it's priced in the dollar. So right now we're seeing an awful lot of dollar strength because money is fleeing bonds and money is fleeing the stock market. So we're seeing dollar strength right now. This is a lot like 2008. Gold initially in 2008 went down.
Also keep in mind, we're seeing a lot of central banks selling foreign currency reserves in order to stabilize their particular currency value on exchange. And what they're selling is US dollars, which means it's coming back here. Sooner than later, you're going to see the dollar drop, in the words of Trump, hugely in value.
And a lot of people forget that fact. It went down because the dollar went up initially. It jumped up when everything was heading south. And so people flee to the dollar initially. And then when they realize what's happening, that we're heading into a recession, the dollar starts to lose strength. It starts to plummet. And then because the dollar and gold have an inverse relationship, dollar falls, gold rises. So that's why you have big investment banks like Goldman Sachs predicting gold to be at 2,500, which is a 40% move from here. You have Bank of America predicting gold to be at 3,000, which is a significant move from here. So they see the writing on the wall that everyone's moved to the dollar. There's dollar strength, inverse relationship. Gold has fallen a bit, but it has not fallen on the same level as stocks, as bonds this year, as the crypto market this year.
No, it hasn't. That's why I've been saying invest your money into gold and silver. Look, by the end of this year's not even over. You're going to start seeing signs of the dollar's weakness before the end of the year. What he's talking about is the banks predicting gold to end the year at $2,500 or as high as $3,000 by the end of the year. Wake up, people. Are you there? Hello? Hello? This is September.
Gold is actually holding pretty well. I believe it's down 4% on the year as of today, where you've got several very popular FANG stocks and everything else down upwards of 50%.
So when you say, in terms of like how the price of gold is determined, when you just type in on Google the price of gold, it says right now 1780 or something in that range. So that's determined by
1780 is down to around 1680, more like it.
By what? There's mining coming out of the ground, and those miners sell future contracts on any gold that they find, and so that is generally how it's based on those future contracts, or also you incorporate the inter-trading of the gold that already exists?
Yeah, it's just open market trading, just like the price of oil, just like a price of a stock.
This right here is an American Walking Liberty 1-ounce gold coin. And typically, I order at least one of these from our sponsor, American Hartford Gold, every single month. The reason I do so is because, as you likely know, the inflation rate in this country is the highest that has been in, the last 40 years. Down in the description box below, and then let's head on back to the studio. Earlier, you mentioned something interesting that I want to circle back to. You mentioned some of the names of the big banks like Bank of America. So just a few weeks ago, actually maybe even less than 2 weeks ago, one of the top executives over at JP Morgan Chase, he was actually found guilty of price manipulation. So specifically, a man named Michael Nowak, who was the global head of JP Morgan's precious metal trading, he was found guilty on 13 counts of attempted price manipulation, commodities fraud, wire fraud, and spoofing the prices of gold, silver, as well as some other precious metals. Can you sort of elaborate on that? How could a banker like this...
Whoa. Back up here, Sparky. You can also see that Raffo is charged with racketeering and conspiracy. We don't care about all of his charges. They don't mean crap. What makes a difference is how much time is this guy going to do in jail? Keep in mind that his bosses, like Jamie Dimon and them, encourage this crap. Since they are heavily connected by politics, I'm sure their political influence is going to make sure that this man doesn't do any jail time at all. And that's the sad part.
Wire fraud and spoofing the prices of gold, silver, as well as some other precious metals. Can you sort of elaborate on that? How could a banker like this manipulate the price of an international commodity like?
Once again, remember, was it 2019, JP Morgan was hit with the largest ever fine of almost $1 billion for their manipulation of the market. As you could clearly see, it never stopped them.
Gold.
Yeah, look, JP Morgan is set to pay a $920 million fine, which is a record for spoofing. For years, the defendants placed thousands of false orders for precious metals, creating a ruse that lured others into making losing trades.
Also, keep in mind that JP Morgan makes that in less than 2 days in profits. So to them, they don't give a crap if they pay a fine of almost $1 billion. They don't care. It's like paying a dime for a fine.
They manipulate the price by spoofing. The goal of spoofing is to move market prices in a way that financially benefits the traders' pre-existing positions in the market. This was banned back in 2008, but still pretty prevalent in the markets.
Oh, so in that case, the only person that's screwed is the actual customer.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, not to that, but it's a bad deal, bad practice.
So let me actually ask you this. So within this case, here was a short statement. This was from the U.S. Justice Department within this case, and here's what they wrote, quote, "For years, executives at one of the world's largest banks conspired to manipulate the markets for precious metals. All three of them work together, all three of these individuals work together toward the same goal, earning profits for the precious metals desk by spoofing. What do they mean by spoofing? What does that term mean?
Yeah, spoofing. Spoof trading, also known as bluffing. Trade spoofing is a trading practice where a trader sends a large order to the market with the intent to cancel before the execution, just to manipulate the market. The large order tricks other traders into thinking that there's a huge demand or supply in the market, and they trade accordingly. So it's basically faking everyone out to trade a certain way.
Oh, I see. So I remember actually a few years ago, there was a similar story within the silver market where the executives at several different banks, technically they were competitors against each other, but they essentially had this back channel communication where they would say, hey, I'm buying silver at this price. And then the next guy would buy here, 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 here. And so the idea was that they wanted to hit, like, let's say $18. They wanted to hit that exact point because they knew there was a buy order that they could then earn money on from one of their clients.
Correct. There's buy orders at every level, and they're hoping to trigger those or trigger a sell order.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Usually when a market is heavily manipulated, eventually things have to correct because the reality of the market is it's too complex. And if you have a manipulation that tends to either become a bubble or it tends to warp the market around it and then eventually crashes down. What do you believe will be the future of either gold or silver with these things happening in the background?
We've seen the price of physical gold, the premiums go through the roof this year, from the US men and so on. Like typically a Silver Eagle you could buy, and sorry, this is the long answer, but
Look, the reason why the premiums are so high and people continue to buy these precious metals is because they support that price level. In other words, if silver is going on the open market at $15 an ounce, but they have a $15 premium, which means you have to spend $30 in order to get a 1 ounce Silver Eagle. That means that people believe that the value of the 1 ounce Silver Eagle is worth at the very minimum $30, but most likely they believe it's worth more.
Typically, Silver Eagle, before COVID, you could buy for $2.50 over spot, and now that's trading for $12 plus over spot.
15 over spot now.
So we're seeing the premium market go through the roof, and generally the price of gold and silver is not far behind that in terms of rising. So we'll see that those prices rise. I tend to lean on some of the experts. You've got some smart people at Goldman Sachs saying 2,500. I tend to agree with that. And look, crews of guys at banks can get together and try to spoof the market. They can try to create an arbitrage opportunity. They can try to suppress the price. But when things are hitting the fan out there in the world and you have a tsunami of people buying gold and silver, that price is going to rise no matter what. And I think we're in a very similar situation to 2008 where gold is laying low for a little bit while the dollar is strong. And then as we get to the end of this year through the fall, as we get into 2023, we're going to see gold skyrocket. I'm thinking $2,300 to $2,500 next year is easy. And I can say that with confidence when you look at the amount of money we've printed over the past couple of years. M2 money supply has increased by 80% in 2 years, which is, it's funny when you see Jerome Powell and the Fed get up there and talk about, we don't know why there's inflation. You see Joe Biden talking about, we don't know why there's inflation. We blame Russia. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, that doesn't help having war over there. But, we printed all this money in the past couple of years. That's why there's inflation. And so that will come back to really hit the dollar soon. And that's when gold will certainly take off.
Yeah, and actually, you mentioned the war in Russia, and I remember there was sort of an incident where when the sanctions were first being hit upon Russia, they actually began pegging their currency to gold, and then by extension, their oil to gold. Right? They set a floor for the price of gold at, I believe, 1,800 was the conversion between rubles and dollars. So it seems like you're right. When everything goes out the window, when it's wartime, when it's something real happening, gold is the real thing.
6,000 years of recorded history tells you that we will always, always, always fall back on gold. Countries around the world are rising up against their governments. Inflation is ridiculously high. The number that's being reported here in the United States is not legitimate. They're trying to crash the US dollar, but before they do, they're using the US dollar to crush currencies around the world so they can force everybody into the central bank digital currency. If you do not have gold and silver, You will not be outside of the system. You will suffer.
Yeah, and that's what, we never recommend people putting all their money into gold and silver, but it certainly makes a whole lot of sense to diversify with it, create a hedge for yourself, create an insurance policy. If you worked hard to build all this wealth throughout your life, certainly putting a little bit of an insurance policy in place on that money, particularly with everything that we have going on right now, it makes a whole lot of sense.
I said it before and I'll say it again. I said you got to put 25, 30% of all of your retirement funds in the gold and silver. And when you do, go to our friends over there at Money Metals Exchange. That is there to protect your nest egg. So if you lose everything on the stock market, at least you have the gold silver, which will go up in value and keep you from losing all your wealth. There has been a number of you, a large number of you, who put all of your investment in there. That's what I did. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying that's what I did. And quite a few of you have as well. And it's large dollar amounts. So don't worry about what you see out there as far as the price of gold and silver on the paper market. Just hang tight. It's going to come back. It's going to bite them in the ass. And you're going to be forever grateful.
Yeah. So last question. About a week ago, I was actually driving with some friends, and we were just chatting about finances, and they asked me about gold and silver. And one of them specifically asked me whether they should invest in an ETF for gold and silver versus the real commodity like I do. And I told them that from my reading at least, it seems like the ETFs, even though the public consensus around them is that they're fully backed by the underlying commodity, it seems like, again, just from my reading, and I'd love to know your opinion on this from actually being in this industry, it seems like a game of musical chairs where if everybody pulls out, there's only a certain percentage of people who can actually get the precious metals. Is that true?
Yeah, look, you're not going to be able to get that ounce of gold. If you have an ETF that says it's backed by an ounce of gold, a gold-backed IOU is still an IOU, right? There's still counterparty risk there. They don't have all those ounces accounted for in those ETFs. Call them up, try to take delivery. It won't happen. I always tell my clients, if you're trying to protect your home, do you buy stock in Smith & Wesson, or do you go out and buy the real gun?
I love that, man. Do you want to buy stock in Smith & Wesson? Or do you want to actually own the real thing to protect your home?
You buy the real gun. If you're looking for a true safe haven without counterparty risk, you buy the physical gold and silver.
Look, it was a great interview by Roman over there on Facts Matter, man. Usually they talk about what's going on with the jab or what's going on with the 2020 ballot thing, but in this case, they are talking about gold and silver, which is nice. I love what they had to say, and I wanted to share with you guys. They say the same thing. Do as they do, not as they say. Protect yourself. Anyways, I'll stop showing you guys pictures of my basement. I wish, man. Oh, good Lord, I wish. Anyways, that's it for now. Let me know what you guys think. I will catch you later. I am out.